Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you give a little more than you take, and if you try to fix more than you break, if you're the kind who takes the time to help a stranger in the rain, there's a place for people like you. If you stand up for those down on their knees and lend a voice to those who cannot speak, if you shine a little light, give sight to the ones who've lost their way, there's a place for people like you. I've heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, there's a place up there for people like you. If you walk around with your heart on your sleeve, and if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you lay down your life for love so someone could be saved, there's a place for people like you. I've heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, there's a place up there for people like you. Streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, yeah, there's a place up there for people like you. I know you're out there, so keep doing what you do, 'cause there's a place up there for people like you. Out of many one people we are. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you give a little more than you take, and if you try to fix more than you break, if you're the kind who takes the time to help a stranger in the rain, there's a place for people like you. If you stand up for those down on their knees and lend a voice to those who cannot speak, if you shine a little light, give sight to the ones who've lost their way, there's a place for people like you. I've heard up there the streets are made of gold,
wonderful lady. Mrs. Worrell has so many admirable qualities. And we are not sad this afternoon, but we just want to look back with joy and say it was good that we had met her, sorry. All right, and so as we go through this program that is planned here this afternoon, I hope these memories will linger with us for the rest of our lives. And so we just looked at the slideshow, and we are going to begin this function with prayer. And so the Reverend Luke Shaw, our school's chaplain, will do the prayer for us at this time. Our prayer is coming up.
Creator God, who sees and knows, we thank you for the life of Ancelata Worrell. We celebrate her life as a gift to us, including her inspirational servant life, manifested in church, education, and the community at large. We particularly thank you for her service to the Enid Bennett High School family, formerly Bogwalk Secondary School. Though painful, as we gather this celebratory service, we acknowledge that in the midst of pain, we can give great thanks, as we do in this gathering today. May your peace, love, warm our hearts as we remember and celebrate all the good times we have experienced with her. We thank you, O Lord, for all the wonderful ways you've used our departed sister in the life of each and every person here. We commit this time of remembrance, thanksgiving, and celebration to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, so we thank the Reverend Luke Shaw for the opening prayer. And now we'll have the official welcome by our principal, Mr. Patrick Phillips.
Madam Chair of this function, our school chairman, although I said man, she's really a woman, Mrs. June Thompson, my two vice principals, Mrs. Johnson and Miss Blake, members of staff, teachers, admin staff, ancillary staff, security staff, members of the bereaved family. My task this afternoon is to extend a warm welcome to you all. However, as usual, I like to claim principal privilege to say a few words before I officially welcome you. And so, as we have been admonished time and time again, that we should not mourn as those who have no hope. And it said, mourning may endure for a night, but the joy comes in the morning. And so you would have experiencing the joy in the midst of sorrow, because you have heard of the wonderful contribution that your grandmother, your mother, your aunt, your sister have done to not just the Bugwalk High School, but to the community. You have just heard of the wonderful sweet cake that she had baked 39 years ago. And the memory still lingers on. So she has been making wonderful contribution to the community. She has changed lives. And these lives have been making wonderful contribution to Jamaica at large. And I'm sure not just Jamaica, but globally. And so we are happy, family, that you had lent such a wonderful person to our institution. She is a pioneer, especially in the home economics department. And so she has contributed well. She had worked well. She had interacted well with other persons, with staff, and everyone alike. And up to today, I was sitting out there where we have the little display, and somebody came and sit beside me and said, Miss Watt, she was somebody who could laugh. When you give her a joke, you can be assured that she is going to laugh and it will feel good. Even if the joke is not a good joke. But the way she laughed, it makes you feel that you have accomplished something. So we really want to thank God for people like these. And we are happy as a school that we are not mourning, but we are celebrating. We are celebrating with you because we want you to know that she has lived well. So although we may feel the sadness and the grief, we will celebrate. So I want to welcome you all here this afternoon. I want to welcome the teachers. I know that students are online. I want to welcome the various persons, and I especially want to welcome you as family as we share the Thanksgiving and the celebration with you. May God continue to comfort you and give you strength. One of the things that you must do is to live her memories. Make sure that you celebrate her life by remembering the wonderful things she has done. God bless you.
Thank you much, Mr. Phillips. And we are moving on with our program. At this time, we'll be having a candlelight ceremony. So I'm going to be inviting our guests that are seated here to just file out and go to the foyer at the front where the lighting will take place. And this will be done by the Home Economics Department. Okay. We thank the Home Economics Department for lighting those wonderful candles for us. Mrs. Worrell spent 26 years out of our 88 years with us at the Bogwalk High School, now Enid Bennett. And I met her for the last 7 years. She spent here. And she was a wonderful lady. And even in retirement, we kept that friendship alive. And so while she was here, she impacted many lives. Now, this afternoon, we are going to be reflecting on Mrs. Worrell as an educator, as a mentor, and then last of all, we are going to be looking at her personality. So as an educator, I'm going to be asking Mrs. June Thompson, Chairman of the Board of Governors, to reflect on Mrs. Worrell at this time.
MC Mrs. Gloria McLean, Chaplain Reverend Shaw, Principal Mr. Patrick Phillips, Vice Principals Mrs. Winsome Johnson and Miss Blake, academic staff, administrative staff, ancillary staff, past students and present students, well-wishers on the platform, and community persons. And last but in no form least, the Worrell family. Orville Dwight, Mrs. Dwight, Mrs. Orville, and young Orville. and young Dwight. All right? A great afternoon to you. An afternoon of celebration. An afternoon of reflection. It is supposed to be a happy moment because it is said in the word, we are granted 80 years and 10. And if by any reason we are granted any more, we are to be pretty happy. And I know that Mrs. Worrell will be smiling from ear to ear this afternoon. I stand here this afternoon to speak on behalf of the Board of Governors. And I may sway a little, but as the chairman, I just want to say to the Worrell family, we thank you for loaning Mrs. Worrell to us for 26 years. She passed through, she's a pioneer teacher. She passed through the Bogwalk Junior Secondary, the Bogwalk Secondary, the Bogwalk High School. That's the transition. And we are now the Enid Bennett High School. What can I say about Ancelita Worrell? Wow. That lady is a lady of status, a lady extraordinaire, a connoisseur, a lady who satisfied the palate. She satisfied the palate. Anything she touches turn into gold. Stir up your taste buds. Not only that, as a teacher, she really commanded respect from the children. But she gave respect also. No child was too poor for her. No child was ever hungry in her presence. No teacher, no hungry neither. No teacher, no hungry either. And I can't talk about Mrs. World and not talk about dads. Because when the car rolling in the morning, dad is laden both arms with the goodies going up on the step. Whether the material to make the goodies or the goodies already done at home and coming for distribution here. I must say to you that I remember all the outings that we have as staff. People take Epsom salts. Because when you go on that bus, nobody no carry no food. Miss Worrell have we lunch? No lunch. Our breakfast, our lunch, and if not, all our dinner. So we are going to a place where we're going to eat. But I don't know how Miss Worrell could package things for a bus of 25, 30 of us and nobody short. She reminds me of the little boy in the story with the 2 fish and the 5 barley loaves, because her basket is always unending, refilling, 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 and then she busts a big laugh. Ha 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 ha! You don't like it? And I'm telling you, it is always so fulfilling. I don't know if I can recall Miss Worrell with a straight, serious face. I don't know if anybody can recall. Miss Worrell gave your heart lightness, joy, happiness. And back to the students, even if you're a struggling student, when she finished encouraging that student, you think you're an A student, and you're going to do good. You're going to do excellent. She was always prepared, and I want to talk about being a fashionista, being a trendsetter. Anything that lady put on, nobody on the runway can look good like her. And she mellowed with age. She mellowed. So she said she getting a year older. I saw the fashion turn up. You know what turn up? I saw the fashion turn up. We who were younger have to be trotting behind her to keep up with her. To keep up with her. And I'm sure that in the home economics department, those who were there with her have learned immensely from her, because she was a lady who did not follow the book. You know the cookbook? She had her own cookbook up here. And she mixed and matched and stir until it came out splendidly. You cannot say, oh, you want a little more salt or a little more sugar. I don't know, she did it. And then I go back to Dad's. When we having function, she always tell us, Dad's a cook the big pot of rice. Dad's was an expert on cooking the rice. Teamwork made the dream work for her. They were a couple to be emulated. And I hope then 2 young men here before me take something out of their book. I don't know, you know. I hope they have taken something out of their book. One last thing I'm going to say about Miss Worrell. She shared something with me. She said, you see the white live here, or the Harvey live in my yard, them have to make a contribution, you know. But guess what happened? You see, when them go out on their own, I'm going to give them back everything that they contributed, that they can start life out there. I don't know if it became a reality, but she told me that the boy them have to pay their way. But when they're going out, in the green to make life, she is going to bungle up whatever they contributed and say pay for one house or pay your rent or something. She is that kind. She was that kind of person. She always look out for everybody. She always think forward. She always think forward. And if she see her face look dreary, and she say, no, don't wear that. That not wearing. Make sure you smile because Mary, as make a merry heart, something like that. They make a countenance, whatever. So, family, grandson, daughter-in-laws, sons, sisters, all persons present, past and present students, Mrs. Anselita Worrell has left a legacy with us. She has left her service with us. She has left her wonderful smile with us. She has left her great work with us, building this Bogwalk High School from barbecues and all different things. Miss Worrell is a lady of excellence. Is a lady of an awesome character. Is a lady of sharing and caring and of love. So this evening, as we reflect, we have nothing to mourn, but we have everything to rejoice over, having her come across our path. We are to just select even a page out of her book. So, Orville and Dwight, make sure say uno measure up. Make sure say uno measuring up. Because I don't want her to come in her dream and say, boy, what are you doing? That is not me. You understand? And all of us who have taught with her will always remember her for her kindness. Remember her for her wonderful contribution in the building of the Bogwalk High School and in general, education in the home economics sector. May her soul rest in peace and light perpetually shine. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson, for your contribution this afternoon. And we are moving along. We are going to be having a song by Shauna Gay Stewart Bennett. Song. woman of excellence, and I'm sure she would appreciate this singing this afternoon. And so we are moving on to another reflection, and this time we are going to be having Mrs. Hyacinth Walters, a former colleague and close friend of Mrs. Worrell. Mrs. Walters at this time.
In September 1979, I entered the Bogwalk Secondary School as a teacher of home economics. I was warmly greeted by Mrs. Anslater Worrell, who sought to allay the anxieties any young teacher would experience by her engaging smile and kind, encouraging words. In the ensuing years, she became a suitable mentor, thus assisting my development as a teacher. Mrs. Anslater Worrell, fondly called Miss Ansie by close colleagues, was a home economics teacher par excellence. As head of the home department of the then Bogwalk High School, she equipped her students with culinary and other life skills which have prepared them to earn a living and contribute positively to society, both locally and internationally. Under her guidance, many students excelled at the secondary school certificate and CSEC examinations. Additionally, with limited resources and her creativity, she helped propel the school and her students towards achieving numerous category awards, namely gold, silver, and bronze in the annual JCDC Culinary Arts competitions. Mrs. Worrell excelled in her specialty areas, pastry and cake decoration. Her cake decorations were comparable to artistic creations. During her active years, there was high demand for these services by her extensive clientele, which sometimes spanned generations. This innovative expert created unique products using our local fruits and vegetables, such as papaya, chocho, orange peel. These were transformed into candied fruits for her cakes and buns. She was also careful that her students learned and practiced the social graces, particularly those related to fine dining. Members of staff were regularly invited to the department to dine with her at lunchtime. On these occasions, the table settings would be prepared by her students, who would be in trouble if they got them wrong, or if they deviated from the standard. A philanthropist, Mrs. Worrell epitomized the saying of the Lord Jesus, that it is more blessed to give than to receive, as she never missed an opportunity to give. She was very concerned about the welfare of her students and colleagues. Students unable to purchase the regular lunch jostled for the chance to collect a rock cake and toto along with a drink reasonably priced. This earned her the affection of her students, who loved to tease her whenever they saw her, especially if she was garbed in one of her trendy outfits. One outspoken student, one day, unable to contain her enthusiasm, remarked, "Then, Miss Worrell, is how you love dress like young girls, so?" Whereupon she retorted, When you go to a store, you see the label young girl or old woman. Her humorous comments often served to lighten sometimes tense situations. Mrs. Warren loved her students as well as the craft which she taught them. Her legacy of positive values and attitudes lives on in the lives of those whom she has impacted.
Okay, we want to thank Mrs. Walters for that reflection. And as a former colleague myself, I can concur with all that Mrs. Walters has said. It's a true reflection of Mrs. Worrell as a home economics teacher. And she practiced what she taught. And at lunchtime, really, the table had to be set. And we sat and we dined and we had good conversation over food. And so our memories will live on. And we are moving on. And we are going to be having a dance by a member of staff or members of staff. I think this dance was very appropriate this afternoon. Mrs. Worrell was a very vibesy person, you know. Yes, she was vibesy, full of life, you know. Yes, and so I think this dance was very, very appropriate this afternoon. All right. She must be smiling wherever she is now. All right, so we are moving along nicely. And so we are going to be having the past vice principal and close friend of Mrs. Worrell, Mrs. Monica Smith. And she will be doing her reflection at this time. Mrs. Monica Smith.
O Lord, haste the day when her faith shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with her soul. The first Monday of September 1971, many of us as teachers entered the campus of the then Bogwalk Junior Secondary School for the first time. One such teacher was Mrs. Anselita Worrell. Many of us were strangers coming from various school backgrounds, but we soon became one and built a unique, adaptable, and friendly school culture. Mrs. Worrell became head of the Home Economics Department, and with a small team of teachers, built the department to one of the best in the parish. In so much that when we had open days, it drew the crowd of other teachers, parents, and students. Everyone loved going to her department as the various and varied dishes were on display. She taught the students well. They entered various competitions, sat exams internally and externally, and got good results. Sports days, fundraising activities, graduations, and other events, she was there. We could always depend on her as she transformed the department where special guests could be entertained when we have such functions. This has been passed down to her successors. She loved the students and spoiled them, especially the boys. She was kind and daily would give lunches to students who had none. Rock buns were her special treat, and the students loved them. Catering for weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, and other celebrations was very special for her, and many of the teachers and past students made use of her services. She was used the students to help, thus training them for life. And many of them are now earning their livelihood through those experiences. Whenever Mrs. Worrell catered, food was never short, no matter how large the crowd was. Mrs. Worrell was family-orientated and considerate, and always involved Mr. Worrell in whatever she did. She had only 3 boys. One died at an early age, but she raised 24 other children, mainly girls, who have taken their rightful place in society, both in Jamaica and abroad. She was a Christian and showed love for others. She remembered the words of Jesus, "I was hungry, and you gave me food. In prison, and you visited me." I remember one of our students, a girl, committed murder in defending herself. She was in jail at the Linstead police station. After we left church one Sunday, Mrs. Worrell said to me, "Let's go and visit that student." We went. The condition she was in was deplorable. She was with the adult prisoners in the cell. We were brought to tears. After going home, Mrs. Worrell sent food and toiletries for her. Going to school the next morning, we were able to contact the relevant persons, and very soon she was taken out and sent to where she belonged with other adolescents. Such was the love she had. We are saddened by her passing, but she has lived a good life. She has worked hard and is now resting from her labors and will rise again to meet her Maker and Creator. Mr. Worrell, Dwight, Orville, and the rest of the family, we offer our deepest sympathy. Mrs. Worrell, top notch, is now resting. God bless you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so to close off this section, looking at Mrs. Worrell as the educator, we'll have a song from the academic staff, and this will be done by Miss Chanel Ferguson.
Good evening, everyone. After reflecting on the life of Mrs. Worrell, I realized that she's a woman who gives love. And where can we get love but from God? Amen? So I hope that you sing this song with me. Right? I can take a heart that's broken, make it over again, but I know a man who can. I can take a soul that sings, make it whiter than snow, but I know a man who can. Some call him Savior, the Redeemer of men, but I call him Jesus, for he's my dearest friend. If you feel no one can help you and your life is out of hand, I know a man who can. I can walk upon the waters or calm the troubled sea, but I know a man who can, and I can cause blind eyes to open or make the lame to walk again, but I know a man who can. Some call him Savior, the Redeemer of men, but I call him Jesus,
Wonderful, 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 wonderful singing, Miss Ferguson. And so we thank you for representing the academic staff. And we close off this segment where we look at Mrs. Worrell as the educator. And so we are moving along, and we are going to be looking at Mrs. Worrell as the mentor. She has mentored many, and many have found their rightful places in society all over the world. And so at this time, we are going to be hearing from some past students from the 70s and the 80s.
My name is Captain Janice Smith, and I had the pleasure of being a student of Miss Worrell during grade 10 and 11 at Bog Walk Secondary. Being in her class was an adventure. We were learning critical skills, but also having fun. In her class, you could express yourself more than you could in other class. Home economics is all about process. As a captain in the U.S. Navy, I have continued to use what she taught me about process in my day-to-day life. She taught me that having a process and following that process ensures that I stayed on task, ensured order and discipline, motivates you to stick with it, prevents complacency, and is key to ensuring everyone understood what expectations were. And all those things are important in my life as a military officer. Her cakes were a work of art. So when I returned to Jamaica to get married 18 years after leaving high school, Miss Worrell was the only one that was going to bake my wedding cake. Come to think of it, that might have been the reason I returned to Jamaica to get married in the first place. And that cake was the highlight of my wedding. My sympathy to Mrs. Worrell's family. May God give you strength in these times. I hope you can find some comfort in the fact that she brought so much happiness to the people whose lives she touched. God bless you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My brief reflection today is inspired by one of the great teachers who contributed immensely to the educational foundation of many who attended Bog Walk Secondary School, now Enid Bennett High School. Mrs. Ancelita Worrell was the first home economics teacher at Bog Walk Secondary School, and I am lucky to have been one of her students. Mrs. Worrell took pride not only in the lessons she taught, but also the physical environment of her classroom. Everything had to be clean and organized. She yearned to be the best at whatever she did. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Worrell was the best at baking Jamaican black cake or fruit cake or rum cake, whichever we choose to call it. And to this day, I have not come across any fruit cake as delicious as hers. Through Mrs. Worrell, I developed a love for baking, and on several occasions, spent time with her as she baked for special occasions. My goal was to master the art, to do it the way she did it. To this day, I still bake fruitcake using that basic recipe I received from Mrs. Worrell several decades ago. Being told on many occasions by some individuals that my cake is the best that they have ever tasted always brought me back to Mrs. Worrell, because she is the one who taught me how to bake fruitcake. Mrs. Worrell was an amazing human being, a great teacher who trained her students to be good human beings, to face challenges and overcome them, and to be an example to others around. She herself exemplified these very same values in the life she lived. I feel extremely lucky to have known Mrs. Worrell personally and to have been one of her students. I always remember the knowledge she imparted to me when I was a student and the motherly love that she showed me. And I'm sure other students can attest to these characteristics as well. I remember when I was getting married, Mrs. Worrell baked my wedding cake and did such a beautiful job in decorating the cakes and the hall. But the best part is that she did it with so much love. Mrs. Worrell was like a candle burning who led the way for those who dared to follow. She never neglected any of her students, irrespective of their intellectual capabilities. As a result, she did not only educate us in the art of home economics, but she helped us discover ourselves, develop self-confidence, motivation to think big and follow our dreams, and become positive influencers in life. As we celebrate her today, I want us to remember the kind of teaching she did, the characteristics she exemplified, and her contribution to the educational foundation of this institution. Mrs. Worrell, we miss you. May your soul rest in eternal peace.
I am from the graduating class of 1976-1977, and Mrs. Worrell was the home economic teacher. And what I can remember about Mrs. Worrell is that she always has a lot of bags, as if she moved the kitchen from her house to school. And I always wonder, why so many bags? Her husband has to accompany her up the stairs. But then I did not do home economics, so I would not know what are in those bags. One thing I can tell you, she made the best rock buns. May her soul rest in peace.
What do I remember funny about Mrs. Worrell? She was very nice, but also very frank. I can't recall what the situation was, but while she was at Tullow School, there was a situation that came up in class, and one Frederick Lee ended up calling Mrs. Worrell a witch. Mrs. Worrell retorted, "Are your mama a witch?" And you know, everybody in the class was all laughing uncontrollably.
Yes, remembering Mrs. Worrell, I remember her as one of those teacher, home economics teacher, one of the best. You know, she would bake those nice wrap buns. She would also, I remember she teaches us to make macaroni and cheese from scratch. You know, she taught us so many things, man, in that home ec center. You know, that, you see, that is why she always has so much bags. She bakes wedding cakes for people. Remembering when Mr. Worrell used to drop her, you know, he used to take up those bags. I'm telling you, man, Mr. Worrell and the bags going up. And Mrs. Worrell and she also had bags coming along behind him, you know. And in our class back in the days, we used to have fun. We used to have a lot of fun with her. A lot of fun, I'm telling you. We used to have a lot of fun with her. It's a person easy to get along with. And when you do not understand something, she will go over and over with you. Not until you get it properly done as how she wanted it to be done. So she was one of the best. I'm telling you, she was one of the best at Bagwalk during our time. She was one of the best. Mrs. Worrell. Mrs. Worrell. All right. She's good. She was a good teacher. Very nice person.
Okay, those were precious memories. And when a woman is empowered, they make an enormous impact on the world. And this afternoon, we saw persons from all over the world making their reflection through the empowerment of the late Ann Slaughter. And so we are celebrating this afternoon. Next, we are going to be having an instrumental by a saxophonist. by the past students. On the saxophone, we had Jade Brooks. On the keyboard, we had Michael Brown. And we also had Andrew Carter on the drum. And Andrew is in the room. Andrew is in the room right here as part of the technical team this afternoon. And so our past students are very multi-talented. And so we thank them for putting together that instrumental for this program this afternoon. So we heard from the past students of the 70s and 80s. We had the instrumental, and now we are going over to a mentee. We have Miss Serene Small. She's now the guidance counselor at this school, but she came here as a cosmetology teacher and had Mrs. Worrell as her HOD. And so Mrs. Worrell mentored Miss Small. And so over to you now, Miss Small.
You meant so much to all of us. You were special. You brightened up the darkest day and the cloudiest sky. I met Mrs. Worrell when I came to Bog Walk Secondary, now the Independent High, to work in the 1990s. She was introduced to me as my head of department. She was jovial, friendly, honest, and treated you with respect. Mrs. Worrell would sit in my classes as head of department. She would say, "This area, and that is cosmetology, is not my specialty, so I am here to learn." At the end of the lesson, she would say what I needed to improve and also comment on my strong points. I was always commended by her on my penmanship when I write notes on the board. I remember I was working 3 months before getting a salary. In November, I was paid for September and October. Not having an account at NCB, I went to change my check. The teller looked at the amount and went to his supervisor. He returned saying that the check cannot be changed because the signature was wrong. Back at work the following day, I explained to Mrs. Worrell and she said, "I am going to ask my son if he can help. He's working at Workers' Bank, but maybe you would have to open an account." That was done and I got my check changed. That was the beginning of a lifelong friendship. I remember one day at church, Mrs. Jones came to me and said Mrs. Worrell was asking for me. So I went to talk with her and Dad. She asked how things were with me and wanted detailed information on my daughter. She was just making sure that we were all right. Death leaves heartache, no one can heal. Love leaves memory, no one can steal. She will be missed.
Okay. We want to thank Ms. Small for reminiscing on the moments, the days, the months, the years that she spent with Mrs. Worrell here, but it didn't end here when Miss Worrell retired because they both worshipped at the same church. So Miss Small was always able to see Mrs. Worrell and speak with her and maintain that friendship. Thank you very much, Ms. Small, for your contribution this afternoon. And so we are going right over to the Home Economics Department, and they are going to be doing their tribute in poetry.
Memories of an Exceptional Woman by Michelle Watson Dawkins. Our memories of you will never die. You were like an eagle soaring on high, breaking barriers and setting trends. Memories of your distinction and class will never end. You will be immensely missed by family, co-workers, students, and friends. Your selfless impact on others we will cherish to the end. The memories of your sumptuous dishes will never be forgotten. In the history books of the Enid Bennett High School, your greatness has been written. You have left a lasting legacy that many of us will be honored to follow. The memories of how you positively touched our lives will soothe our sorrow. You were an exceptional wife, mother, grandmother, and mentor. We will always remember your exemplary life and compassionate nature. Today, we comfort your loved ones, and we offer our heartfelt and sincere condolences. The Enid Bennett High School family will always remember your contribution and commitment to excellence.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Chambers Johnson, for your reflection from the Home Economics Department. And as I listened to all the reflections, some persons mentioned Mrs. Worrell and the bags and Dad's helping her with the bags and so on. And Mrs. Worrell said to me one day, I didn't carry them from Linstead on my head, so I can carry as many bags as I want to carry because I am not carrying them on my head. You know, she was always jovial, and, you know, you had to laugh. So because she drove, Dad took her to work, she could carry any amount of bags that she wanted to take. All right, so Mrs. Johnson just closed off the segment where we looked at Mrs. Worrell as a mentor. And so we are going to be looking now at the personality of Mrs. Worrell. And we'll have a flashback called Story Time. It's called Story Time. And Mrs. Ulrika Clark, a former colleague and friend, will do this story time.
Okay, here we have Mrs. Ulrika Clark, a former co-worker of Mrs. Worrell's. And she's going to do her reflections on a close personal friend. Mrs. Clark, describe Mrs. Worrell's personality as you saw it.
Well, to me, Mrs. Worrell was a very jovial person, very outspoken, always well-dressed, and free-spirited.
Any particular event comes to mind?
Well, when it comes to outspokenness, there are so many times, but I can remember once there was something to be solved with some teacher. I think she was one of them. And when the principal called the meeting, Mrs. Worrell was there, and she was involved, and she said she's going to be silently observing and very sarcastic in commenting. So she didn't want to comment. That's Mrs. Worrell.
Okay. All right. What was her most endearing trait? And what was her most amusing habit?
Well,
Mrs. Warren had so many traits, but I tell you, she likes to dress up. And I remember one day in the lunchroom, one of her male colleagues, and her good friend too, they were still good friends until the time of her death, saw her in the lunch line and said to her, "Wow, Mrs. Warren, you look pretty today, man. A one young girl dress." Mrs. Warren responded and said, "Well, when I went to the store, I never see any sign marked young people only. And I bought what I liked and what my money could afford." That's how frank she was.
Okay, do you remember any of her unique sayings?
Well, for Mrs. Warren, our unique saying is dance. Look, if dance come, well, dance don't come yet. Everything she does was always centered around love of her life. That's
okay. Do you know if she had a nickname?
Well, I can only recall two. I don't know if the students gave her any.
Okay.
One was given to her by her husband, that of Top Notch, because she wanted everything to be correct to the last T. So she was called Top Notch or Notch. And then, after she entered the JCDC festival competition with her baking things, and I remember she got a gold medal for her Easter bun. So we started calling her Golden Girl. So she had two names actually. She's either Top Notch or Golden Girl.
Okay. What did she want or wish most for her students?
Well, to me, she was very concerned, and she wanted them all to be able to do cookery especially, and housekeeping, and to do it well. So even when they don't have ingredients, she found ways either taking stuff from her house or finding money to help them to purchase. She just wanted them to have the practice and to be good cooks, and some of them really achieved that.
In your opinion, did she enjoy teaching?
Well, to me, teaching was Mrs. Warren's life, because even some staff members learned from her. I think everybody around the school could make rock cakes, and we all got instructions on how to do our own Christmas cake. Some of us never even tried because we could buy it from her. And she just wanted everybody to be happy. Even how she walked and her general mannerism, they could know that she was very jovial, and she wanted others to come along with her on that road.
And finally, if you were to liken her to 3 spices, which would they be and why?
Wow, that's easy. First one I would think of is salt. I choose salt for her frankness. Salt for her ability to add to whatever she does. Flavor, appearance, everything. Pepper for her frankness. If she had to tell you off, she's going to tell you off. And I would say pimento, because she was very creative, very artistic. So she could heighten or bring out the best in whatever she did.
Mrs. Clark, thank you for participating in our reflections.
Okay, yes. I can concur with Mrs. Clark. True reflection of Mrs. Worrell. You know, whatever she did it to her best. She believed that she could, and so she did. So she was the best in graces, social graces. She was the best in her baking. She was the best in her cooking. And whenever she cooked and catered She made sure that everybody was pleased. You know, it was very tasty. She didn't drop short. You know, so as Mrs. Clark said that she, you know, would like her to pimento and spice because she brought out the best in her cooking, in her baking. And oh, as a mother, she loved her two sons and her in-laws and dads. Every next word was dads. You know, she loved him and she treated him well. So that was a true reflection of Mrs. Worrell. She was very, very big on social graces and the dressing, you know. The colors complemented each other. She was just a great woman to be associated with. And so we are going to be having our final item, and that will be done by the dance troupe, and that's a tribute in dance. I told you Mrs. Worrell was very, you know, lively and, you know. So we're going to be having a dance now. So we thank the Enid Bennett Dance Group for that final item that has brought the curtains down to this afternoon's celebration. And Mrs. Worrell, she lived how she wanted to be remembered, you know? So life is short, but fortunately, Mrs. Worrell's life was not short, you know. And so we have to live life because it is short, as somebody says, but Mrs. Worrell lived a full life. And she spread love everywhere. Everybody she came in contact with can say that Mrs. Worrell showed them love. And you know, we are happy for the life that she lived here on earth. A song says, if I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living will not be in vain. And Mrs. Worrell has touched many, many, many lives during her time here on earth. And so, as we close this afternoon, I'd just like to say thanks for all those who took time from their busy schedule, you know, on various platforms to just celebrate her life here with us at the Enid Bennett High School. It was a life well lived, and she was indeed an inspirational stalwart. So we have to take a page out of her book and make sure that we too impact other person's life. May God bless you this afternoon, and thanks again for joining us face to face and from all over the world. God bless you.
Though I'm missing you,
Day
if you give a little more than you take, and if you try to fix more than you break, if you're the kind who takes the time to help a stranger in the rain, there's a place for people like you. If you stand up for those down on their knees and lend a voice to those who cannot speak, if you shine a little light, give sight to the ones who've lost their way, there's a place for people like you. I've heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, there's a place up there for people like you. If you walk around with your heart on your sleeve, and if you're trying to be the change you want to see,